All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this is going to be probably volume 1 in a new series that I'm most likely going to continue called Enter the Red Pill. And the reason why I wanted to start this series is because, as many of you brothers out there know, there is this growing quote-unquote movement known as the Red Pill mentality, which basically is just a counter movement to the toxic feminism, or what they call third wave feminism, that we're experiencing today, which really is about the amplified marginalization of the quote-unquote masculine principle. It's gone from wanting to be quote-unquote equal to men to now trying to conquer manhood. And it really is just feeding into the agent of chaos archetype, or the agent of chaos nature, that is embedded within the DNA of the woman. The woman is always going to be the most useful pawn on the planet Earth because she moves almost exclusively according to her whims and her emotions. So that's why the serpent always works through the woman primarily, or through males who have an earthly mentality, much like Adam, the forefather of earthly males. Christ was sent here to be an end sample for the spiritual component, for those of us who put the Most High first. That's what Christ meant when he said, "I'm from above, you're from beneath." He was talking about the difference between the spiritual man and the earthly man. Now today, because so many young males are instructed about life through the prism of social engineering and what they want people to think, basically trying to controvert the nature, the quote-unquote nature of the man, that being to lead and to improve upon the societal mores from generation to generation through the man's natural aspect or component that he was programmed with to create order. He's meant to be the offset to the woman and to the earthly man. The spiritual man is to instill order. Now, even the earthly man, in a two-dimensional way, seeks after order, but once again, only in a two-dimensional way. The spiritual man seeks after order in a three-dimensional way, which of course means that he's going to create ideologies or propagate ideologies from the Most High that is going to make sure that everyone's able to maintain their mental and spiritual sanity and balance. Everything is about balance. Things are either imbalanced or they're balanced. So that's always going to be the dichotomy that's at war here. Quote unquote Satan, or the adversary, he works from the foundation of creating and instilling and installing imbalance, aka confusion or chaos. So just getting back to the point of this video, and most likely this series, the red pill paradigm, or the red pill philosophy, basically is the earthly man's attempt to reinstill himself with a grasping of the truth. And of course, that's based on the film The Matrix, where you have the character of Morpheus, who presented the red pill or the blue pill to Neo. The blue pill representing the fabricated world that we live in, the contrived reality, pseudo reality that we're raised up in. And the red pill is embracing the truth. The truth about the woman is something that is very apparent, and more men are waking up to it. The red pill basically is a lower level version of the scriptures. I would place it a level above the quote-unquote MGTOW movement, but it's still not what the so-called black man needs to understand how to live his life in the most productive way. That's always going to start with the scriptures, because what the Bible teaches you is how to separate or extricate your emotions from a lot of what's going on around you. It instructs you on how to perceive things in a three-dimensional way, even approaching into the fourth dimension, based on how gifted you are from the Most High. Red pill is too reactionary, but I understand what they're trying to do. They're just trying to reinstill a sense within the mind of the man, who unfortunately is being raised by women today. So he's starting this race from a deficit. It's like the gun is going off to start the race, and the woman is being given a 30-meter lead or 30-meter advantage because she's the one instructing the man, and the woman is always going to be a vessel for propaganda. They're not truth seekers for the most part. Are there exceptions to that rule? Sure. But in general, they're not truth seekers. As we're going to see in this case right here, here's the plaintiff. She's going to make a series of allegations, and the defendant, he's going to explain himself and his view of relationships based on his instruction, at least obviously to me, in the quote-unquote red pill philosophy. So of course they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Plaintiff Courtney Schlicker says she and the defendant were in a casual sexual relationship.
They were in a quote-unquote casual sexual relationship that she was trying to build up into a quote-unquote real relationship. This is a tactic that many low-level liberal females try to use today out of desperation. They lead with intercourse because they know deep down that's all they have to offer to a man. The man in his essential nature is an adapter. He's going to adapt to his environment. He's going to change his conduct based on what's going on around him, especially if he perceives that there's an overarching agenda to marginalize or minimize him. The woman is always going to be a receiver. The man is always going to be an emitter. But if the man does not have the power to emit order, if he knows that there's an overarching agenda to promote chaos, he's going to try to make himself more amenable, or appear to be more amenable, to the philosophies of the day, while also maintaining his manhood to the best of his ability. And that's where the MGTOW and the red pill shit comes in.
And although she wanted something more serious, he wasn't interested. Courtney's suing him today for the cost of 2 cell phones and a cancellation fee.
What you'll notice, unfortunately for the woman, because she's so delusional, she wants, or she's being trained to believe that she wants a real relationship with a man, but they're always going to lead with what they expect from a man as opposed to what they have to provide to a man. These females today, they love talking about how they want a man who can make them laugh, and the man has to do this and be that, but they never state what they're going to bring to the table. At the end of the day, the man is always going to be the head. He's always going to be on top, and no matter what they try to project, the woman, particularly when she's in a state of frenzy or confusion, she's going to look to the man to solve her problems.
Defendant Anthony Moore admits that he didn't want a serious relationship with Courtney because he sees relationships as a waste of time and money.
There are more and more men who are embracing that view of life when it comes to quote-unquote relationships. The mentality is, why would I spend all this money on dates and investing in a future with a person who could wake up tomorrow and decide that they're not quote-unquote feeling me anymore? In society today, the woman is no longer shamed or made to feel embarrassed for not making a relationship work. Men are being demonized to a level where they no longer want to invest time and money in a quote-unquote relationship when they know that the woman, for the most part, is an actress. She's reading her lines. And when she no longer wants to participate in this theatrical production, she's going to bow out of the play and leave the man there looking stupid. And a lot of these guys are waking up to this.
Anthony claims after he got the phones from Courtney, he lost his job and his car and fell on hard times.
Start with you.
Well, I want to say hi. It's been a while. I was here back in 2016, November.
For what?
I was suing my...
happy?
No, sir. No.
I'm not quite sure if she's Sue happy. She's more attention happy. She's an attention mongerer. And if you're paying very close attention, she has a tongue piercing. That's exhibit A. I always tell cats this. There are certain things that the woman is going to show you to let you know that she's just a schmang out. Tongue piercings, tattoos above her breastises, things like that. I mean, come on. I mean, honestly, if a female comes at you with those attributes, you should be reconsidering whether or not you want to deal with her at all. Because it's a very good probability that she's not all there upstairs. As most of these females in this society aren't all there upstairs, but there are some decent females out here. You just have to project the energy to attract them, and there's nothing wrong with saying no as a man to dealing with people for a period of time while you get yourself together.
For?
It was a former coworker at the time. He had moved in with me, and
Did you win?
Yes, sir.
No wonder you back. All right, go ahead.
Well, Your Honor, I met Mr. Moore.
Welcome home. Start there.
Always
You met
nice to be
this-
back.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome home. You met this gentleman where?
Through my former roommate, February, kind of March of 2018. Just kind of hung out playing video games, used to drink quite a bit. He and I used to go to the shooting range, go out for food.
In other words, she was doing all the things that she believes men want women to do. And look, this is not about quote unquote blaming the woman. In assessing the red pill philosophy, which is allegedly based in accepting truth, we have to embrace real truth, that being that the woman is a product of the man. However askew the woman is a reflection of the man's inability to embrace the truth in order to lead her properly. Yes, Eve went off in allowing Satan or the serpent to teach her those philosophies, but it was Adam's job to correct her. He did not do that. So there's definitely a detrimental component here when it comes to the man and his inability to have enough discipline to correct the woman properly, because it can be done. It's just that all the men are not on the same page. And especially in Western society, which is Babylonian in nature, they deculturalize you so that you can no longer teach the woman. Now you embrace your quote unquote race or your culture or your nation based on a color as opposed to actual history. So now there's no foundation to correct the woman on. You can't say, well, back during this time period, this is how you dressed and this is how you're supposed to dress and here's why. And you're not supposed to be talking to other men and here's why. And you're not supposed to have male friends and here's why. The woman has to be moderated. If she's not going to be moderated, she's going to cause problems for herself and for everybody else.
We're briefly kind of in a casual relationship, and I had wanted more, but he had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, so it didn't really work out.
In other words, he'd gotten out of a quote-unquote long-term relationship and felt used and felt jobbed, that he wasn't trying to fuck with anybody else. And kudos to him if he was honest with her and let her know, look, I'm not really trying to deal on that level right now. Good for him, because a lot of dudes would have just kept the gravy train rolling in. I mean, the plaintiff is a big fat bitch, so you know how big broads are. They pay for the food, they're paying half the rent, they're paying the phone bill, everything that should keep a man around. He could have said, oh yeah, I want to get married down the line, but I just want to be patient. He probably said, look, I'm not feeling that right now. I'm chilling. If you want to keep busting nuts, we can, but I'm not checking for nobody to marry. So at least he was quote unquote honest with her.
So we didn't really hang out much after the whole relationship fizzled out.
The quote-unquote relationship fizzled out because you got tired of acting like you were interested in those things that you were doing with him, the video games and going to the gun range and all that other quote-unquote manly shit that you were doing to make him think that you were a cool chick. Once you realized that he wasn't going to put a ring on it, you said, let me stop acting. And there are a lot of females like that. Once again, brothers, the woman is an actress by nature. And it's not even necessarily something that she's conscious of or cognizant of. They put on these different masks and these different faces to confound you because of what they're lustful for at the time, whether it's sex or companionship or whatever. But they're actresses by nature. You have to understand that. If not, you're going to get confused by the woman, and you're going to end up in a bad place mentally when you believe the things that they're trying to portray themselves as is not real. Most females don't even know who the hell they are until they're about 40-something years old, 50 years old. They really don't. That's why they look back and reflect and they say, oh, wow, I was so wrong there. I may have mentioned this in another video, but the actress Gwyneth Paltrow recently came out and apologized to Brad Pitt and Ben Affleck because of the person that she was back in the 90s, back when she was quote-unquote dating them. I think that she also sent out like a half-hearted apology to that guy, the musician that she had the kids with. Most of these females, they know that they're not good people by the definition of what good is. They know that they're self-centered. You also have the actress Mila Kunis, who recently apologized to Macaulay Culkin a couple of years ago for being an asshole. Those are her words, not mine. And how she ended their 8-year relationship. She was too embarrassed to admit that she got bored and probably was cheating on him, quote unquote cheating on him with somebody else. And she ended the relationship in a very toxic way, probably cursed him out or what have you. But these are things that you have to grasp. Your life is a book. These different people, they fill the roles of characters in certain chapters. When certain chapters end, accept it and move forward. What we have to do is create consistent and tried and true parameters for what it means for someone to be allowed in our life for a long period of time. There's nothing wrong with having a schmang out, but you have to accept that that's what that person is. Don't take people more seriously than they take themselves, and we'll be on the pathway to a life that's beneficial for ourselves. Most people don't care about you. They just don't. They're in your life trying to figure out what they could use you for. There are very few good people in this life. Most people try to be good. In their minds, they tell themselves that they're good, but most people out here ain't shit. It's just the reality of the situation. There are good people out here, but they come few and far between.
Okay. Sir, let me hear from you.
we'd met through our mutual friend, her roommate. We'd hung out.
Y'all hung out and smoked weed?
No.
Basically, hung out, smoked weed, drank Budweisers, played video games, and, gave each other that little 2 minute of whack-ass sex they was giving each other.
That's why
No,
you can't remember
that's one
anything
thing
today? That's why you can't remember that today.
No.
Go ahead.
When we first started hanging out, she was kind of a goofball. She'd hide cigarettes from me. She'd take video games and shut them off if she was losing. Not too long.
Because she was trying to be the quote-unquote cool chick. It was an act. It wasn't real.
After, I guess we got the phones, I ran into some really bad luck.
Let's hear about the relationship, though. It was good and never went further than hanging out for the most part.
I just, like she had said, I was not really in a position for a relationship.
Okay.
And
you told her that?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Not quite, I guess, so nicely, but
How did you tell her?
that I pretty much saw relationships as a waste of time and money.
Which most relationships are, to be honest with you. Most relationships are a waste of time and money. Like any other transaction. You have to look at what exactly are you trying to gain from this. Now, if you have disposable income and you understand why you're dealing with someone, then sure. But if you're a person who, is trying to make a long-lasting relationship, quote unquote, and it quote unquote doesn't work out, then you are going to view it as a waste of time and money. So it all depends on your perception and what your goals are in the relationship. Now, if you're a man looking for a woman to have certain attributes or characteristics, like being supportive and a quote-unquote domestic who can maintain the household, things of that nature, most females are not bringing that to the table anymore. They're just not. They view themselves as females. They don't view themselves as women. They call themselves women, but they're really not. They're just, they view themselves as men with breasts and a vagina. They might not even understand that, but that's why they're so combative. So in order to reel a man in, they have to make that man think that they have certain qualities that they don't have. But the woman by nature is very self-centered. They're narcissistic. These are just things that you have to deal with if you want to be with one. And if this cat here, if he truly believes that relationships are a waste of time and money, that's a prerogative. At least he's upfront with it.
All right, that was your point of view. That wasn't necessarily nasty. You didn't personalize it. That's what I was hoping you hadn't said. That you said something negative about her.
He said he tried not to. In other words, he wanted to tell her about herself too, but he said to himself, let me chill. I might still be able to get some of this this BBW WAP.
I said I try not to make anything personal when it comes to that.
Is there an age difference here?
A few years, I think.
How old are you?
4 or 5. I'm 26.
Okay. 4 or 5 years older?
5 years.
Because she seems more mature.
No, she doesn't. She's a better actress. Women don't start maturing until they're 45. The defendant was transparent and he was honest, and the judge calls it immaturity. Real immaturity is acting. When you try to act like you want something that you don't really want, that's immaturity. What the defendant was forthright.
You, based on what I'm hearing.
I don't think I'll ever grow up here.
You probably forced her to play video games. Said that's the only way we're going to get along and hang out is play video games.
No, that's what she perceived. She perceived, because she was desperate, that the only way that they were going to get along is if she did certain things that she thought were going to make him think that she would be a perfect partner for him. The woman plays all these roles throughout her life. There are chicks out here who fall for dudes and then embrace their spiritual beliefs just because they're with that dude. She's with a cat who goes to the Christian church, so now she's a Christian. Then she gets with a 5%er and she's calling herself an earth. She gets with a cat who's an Israelite, and now all of a sudden she's reading the Bible all day. Then she goes and gets with a Muslim and she's in the Quran. Like, women are all over the place. They're all over the fucking place. So you have to grasp that when you're dealing with them. It takes years to get to know who the woman is that you're with. That's why I always encourage cats, even if you've been quote unquote dating somebody for a long time, take a trip with them. Spend a week in a hotel room with them. I promise you, you'll learn more in that 1 week than you've learned in the 2 years of fucking and talking on the phone that y'all been doing, living separately.
And I should get a little basketball jersey, some tennis shoes. Okay, baseball cap. Tell me about the phones.
Your Honor, well, he was going through some financial issues just because he had a string of a couple bad jobs, just bad employers that weren't paying him for the hours worked and whatnot. So since that had happened, he was having trouble procuring a phone just because of the expense. So I had offered to add him to my line because I could get a deal where it would be cheaper.
You offered to add him to your line so that you can keep track of him. That would be another method of control. And this is woman 101. They love to do this shit with the phone. With the phone. They'll have some dude who's down and out, and they'll either give him a phone or they'll give him a line on their account so that they can track and see who they're texting, who they're receiving texts from, who they're calling, who they're getting calls from.
And we could just add a phone that way. So we got him the phone, the original phone, late June of 2018.
Okay.
And he was paying it and everything was going well. But he worked for a company that there was a well on the property, and he had the phone clip on his belt buckle, and it fell off into the well.
He fell off into, like Jonah?
The phone fell off.
Like Jonah in the Bible, huh? He fell into the mouth of the well.
No, Your Honor,
you fell into the mouth of the well like Jonah?
No, sir.
You got spit back out as a result of God's intervening?
I don't think he'd spit me back out. He'd probably just leave me.
Go ahead. So it's a well as it...
Dude said God would probably just leave him in there. And in other words, number one, he probably has a low opinion of himself. And a lot of cats, they deal with this. Not to digress, but a lot of cats, they get into these relationships and they don't work out. And they get depressed and start wondering if it's them. Sometimes it is you. You always have to head into a relationship from a perspective of power, from a foundation of power. That means what? You have to have your own place. You have to have your own income. The woman can and will turn on you in a minute. As I always say, their definition of loyalty and a man's definition of loyalty are totally different. I'll probably be expounding on that in another video or a series, who knows. But the woman is almost amoral. The man is immoral, meaning what? Both parties can be quote unquote disloyal. The difference is that the man knows that what he's doing is wrong. Many times the woman doesn't even know that what she's doing or what she's thinking or her disloyalty is wrong or incorrect. They'll justify it in any way that they can. The man will say, yeah, I was wrong. I was just, I wanted some ass. That's why I slept with this broad. The woman will be like, well, I wasn't getting enough attention. And, I just felt like all this stupid shit. But just getting back to the point. For him to say that the Lord would leave him in the mouth of the whale, he has a self-image problem.
E-L-L?
Yes, Your Honor.
Water.
Yes.
That's Joseph. Wasn't he at the bottom of the well? His brothers threw him in there.
That's a good point.
That's right, Doyle. Good for you. You're sharp with the scriptures.
Yeah.
Or at least you're sharp with that story.
You're Joseph.
Yeah.
All right. One way or another, you're God's man. And you're saying he's Joseph, not Jonah.
Right, Your Honor.
All right. So Joseph's phone fell in the well, but he didn't go down. All right. And what happened? So he came to you.
And he had let me know what happened, and we contacted Sprint, and they said the phone was covered, but the insurance to basically fully cover it was like $250, $350, and we couldn't afford that. So what we ended up doing was putting the phone on seasonal standby and getting him a replacement phone and a new line. So now there's 2 lines, 2 phones.
What was the purpose of that?
Basically, so he could still have a phone.
No, but a new phone.
Because his old one was in the well. And we can...
But a new line, I'm
yes.
sorry.
Yeah, it had to be a new phone on a new line for Sprint to do that, since the other phone couldn't be paid off because of the insurance. And then after he got the second line, he kind of slowly stopped paying for the monthly fees. And then that phone was actually stolen by a customer at his mechanical shop.
So it sounds like he's just a fuck up. And that's another thing. A lot of these guys who run with the red pill and the MGTOW stuff, they're just fuck ups trying to compensate for their lack of understanding. You always have to make sure that your motivation for embracing anything is based in and empowering yourself as opposed to trying to blame others for your ineptitude.
Job. And then he stopped paying altogether and got a new phone with someone else. And so I was stuck paying the monthly bill as well as the monthly subscription for the phone.
And don't get it twisted. A lot of these cats who talk about quote unquote red pill, they're on point with a lot of things. Not all of them are inept, but many of them are. So, we have to qualify our reasonings for why we're saying things and why we're embracing certain ideologies or what have you. But at the end of the day, the answer for the so-called black man is getting back to the scriptures, because it tells us about the woman in the Bible. All throughout the scriptures, we're told about the nature of the woman. And that's what acts as a precaution to stop from getting caught up in their dumb shit, as opposed to being reactionary.
In December of 2019, I was finally able to pay the cancellation fee of $735 to get rid of the phone's lines. Because as long as the phones weren't paid off, I couldn't get rid of the line. So I would have just been permanently paying it to this day if I hadn't paid it off in December.
You would have continued to pay for something that you didn't have, and that he didn't even have either, that no one had.
It was a matter of getting the money to pay off that $735 because I couldn't do payments. I had to pay it in full.
Yeah.
So I eventually went to my grandmother to take a loan in that amount to pay that off.
That's why you have to be so careful about the quote-unquote favors that you receive from people. There are always strings attached, always. And people do you these favors because, that's part of the script that they're reading from. That's part of the role that they're playing. And then that becomes a problem where they try to act as if you asked them for the favor that they volunteered to give you.
Oh, as of December 10th, I then had it kind of cut off, and I let him know.
December 10th?
Yes, Your Honor. That was of 19. That was last December. And then on evidence pages 7, 8, and 9, there are texts from him basically saying that he'll get me money. He doesn't know when, but he'll get me money, and it never came.
All right, sorry, let me hear from you.
Well, in December of 2019, I had actually been working for a company, and at that time, I had been injured and had been out of work for about 3 months from that job. And because of that, I sloughed off and just didn't pay her. As far as the phones go...
Now, you were working when you got it, obviously.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what...
It was December 23rd that I had lost that job.
That's when you were injured?
Yes, sir.
You had paid all the way up?
No.
So what stopped you then? What had stopped you when you were working from paying all your debts?
Lack of responsibility. Probably a poor relationship with his mother, because she's been the person who's been misteaching him about life for the duration. That's why that connection between father and son is so important. The energy between father and son is so important. Because you can't take the feminine energy and use it as a vessel of knowledge for a young boy. The role of the boy and the man in society will be completely disparate from what's called upon for the woman to fulfill. The woman is masquerading as a figure who has high expectations granted upon her. That's not the case. The woman at the end of the day can come up short in her responsibilities, and she can break down and cry, and everyone will feel sorry for her. No one is ever going to feel sorry for a man who breaks down and cries. They're only going to look at him as weak. So that's why it's important for a young boy to understand what his role is and how he's going to be perceived in society from a young age, and that can only be imbued upon him by a man.
It was the fact that I was trying to actually keep a house over my head.
Did you have a house over your head when you first got the phones on her credit line? So
Yes.
what happened to your house over your head between the time you were paying and losing your job? Because you worked when you got it, yet you say you had trouble before losing your job. So what changed? You became ghetto fabulous, buying things you couldn't afford?
No, sir.
So what happened? When you got it, you could pay your house. What happened with your household expenses?
Actually had my truck stolen.
So you had to replace the truck?
Tried to.
Because you didn't...
Damn, this dude sound like a big loser. This motherfucker dropping phones. He getting his truck stolen. He losing his job. He clearly has mental issues that are not being communicated in court. And I noted that when he said that God will probably leave him in the well, that means that he has a loser mentality. Losing starts in the mind. You know, whether God would leave him in the well like Joseph or in the whale like Jonah, either way, he has a loser mentality. And losing always starts in the mind. So you can embrace the red pill shit all you want, but if you have a losing mentality, you're still not going to win.
Insurance. Why didn't you pay your truck insurance?
I had insurance.
What does your truck have to do with it? If you had insurance, your truck was replaced.
They did not replace the pickup.
Why?
They never gave me an actual reason.
They never gave you a reason.
No, they did
You just
not.
let your car go. All right. And your only defense... Pardon? Go ahead.
They paid off the loan, and that was it. I never received a check for the difference.
Okay.
Nothing like that.
And so you had a loan?
Yes, sir.
Oh, so you were paying a monthly amount?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why couldn't you just pay a monthly amount for another car?
Getting that pickup to begin with was rather difficult.
Pardon me?
I had to have my mother... getting the pickup to begin with was difficult. I had to have my mother co-sign on it with me in order to get it.
Uh-huh.
And due to the truck being stolen, she wasn't willing to do that again.
Why? Because if the insurance paid the loan off, she didn't suffer any loss.
She was worried that it might happen again because the neighborhood...
And she still wouldn't suffer any loss because the insurance company would pay it off.
My mom's a strange bird, but that's...
Wow.
It's finally coming out, the resentment. The resentment towards his mother. And it's obvious that he's fibbing trying to get out of paying this broad back her money. But he has other issues that he has to unpack. He has issues with his previous relationships. So he should have left this bitch alone before he was able to get past whatever shit he dealt with in the past. And also, it wouldn't surprise me if he had no dad in his life. A lot of these so-called Caucasian people from middle America, a lot of them are experiencing the same shit as what's going on in, quote-unquote communities of color. Because that third-wave feminism is hitting them hard, too, with the woman only wanting to use a man for his sperm and things of that nature. Or the man not being willing to put up with, the woman, her toxic, component in the household. Or the man just not being a man and being able to preside over a situation that he started by impregnating a woman.
You'd do anything to stop from paying.
That was...
You have a brother or a sister?
Excuse me?
You have a brother or a sister?
I've got 6 of them.
Okay, did they all move in and you were unable to maintain the household expenses because you had all 6 of your siblings move in? That's a good one there
No,
now.
sir.
Huh?
No, sir.
Any of them move in?
Nope.
So what else did it have to do with other than your mama crossed you?
Well, after losing the truck, I wound up losing my job at the same time. It was about...
That's not
3 or
true.
4
You
days.
said December is when you lost
These
your
are
job.
separate...
Pardon me?
Separate jobs, sir. 2 different places.
Oh, so you had 2 jobs.
Like she had said a few minutes ago...
Did you have 2 jobs or not?
Yes.
You said separate places.
Yes.
So why are you stuttering? That's an easy answer. I had 2 jobs. I gotta force it out of you, like I'm forcing everything else out of you. Go ahead. So you lost 1 job. When did you lose that one?
August, thereabouts of 2018.
August of 18, you lost 1 of your jobs, but you were still able to pay her.
No, that's about the time the payment
That's when you stopped paying, August of 18?
Thereabouts, yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, but he did make intermittent payments kind of sporadically.
Okay.
So he did like 3
And
months.
he told
no payment
you
work.
in August of 18 that he couldn't pay you anymore?
He kept promising payment.
Okay, is that true?
Yes, sir.
Why were you promising her payment and you knew you didn't have the money and you had lost your job? You was waiting to get another one?
Because my mother said that she would give me a higher allowance.
I had already had another job lined up, yes, sir.
All right, so your phone wasn't considered a household expense, obviously. For most people, the phone is the most essential possession they have now.
Especially nowadays. I say this all the time. The liberal woman, when she leaves the house, she'll quicker forget her pussy in the house than forget her damn phone.
Otherwise, they're unable to communicate with the outside world. You're able to communicate with the outside world? How?
I have carrier pigeons, like Mike Tyson. I communicate with people through carrier pigeon.
Done with Boost Mobile. I had an old Boost Mobile phone that had been sitting in
Oh, she had another phone.
Yeah.
Oh, why would he pay you if he got another phone? Is this someone else's too? This on someone's bill?
No, sir.
Who you gonna blame? Was it a sibling's phone or something?
No,
you got somebody you're gonna throw under the bus, Doc. You throw him up.
So I'm trying to figure out, he had his own phone, but he still had the big bitch paying for a whole other line. I guess he was just trying to pimp her out.
That's in a minute. Big bucks.
Poverty pimp.
Big bucks.
A lot of people under there.
Sir, I'm finished making a fool out of you. And I say that to say, when people try and give me illogical answers, you see what I do. I go in and make you sound more and more illogical.
Yeah, the defendant clearly has issues, but he definitely was making a fool out of his damn self. I mean, he don't need much help from the judge being made a fool of.
And the more you sound illogical, the bigger the fool you make of yourself. Not me, I take that back. I'm not finished making a fool out of you. I guess I should ask, are you finished making a fool out of yourself?
Yes,
all right, he says yes.
Yes, sir, I am. And by the way, you're a nigger.
All right, so he says he's finished. So we're going to grant your judgment, $2,136, and Joseph has to pay that.
He just mocking the man now. Joseph in the well. Even the sister to the left is laughing her ass off at this fool. Once again, brothers, the red pill stuff is cool, but understand why you're doing everything that you do. And we have to try to be more proactive and not reactive, so that, you're not compelled to embrace many of these philosophies that kind of sort of are based on bitterness. So peace.